Hey there, freaks and friends. Jessie here with some hamstring focused vinyasa flow today. So it'll kind of be an alignment flow, is how I'm feeling in my own body, and was what I was hoping to share with everyone. So we are going to be using um, a blanket or a towel today for our practice. If you don't have other props, you'll be able to make it work, but if we're gonna use the blanket for a bunch of different stuff. So, oh, Frank, fine. So, definitely grab one of those. You may also want, if you have yoga blocks, we're going to use them the way you would in any class. So, if you have a couple of large books or a little stool or something you can use to help support yourself, I always recommend that. And then a cat, maybe a dog to share your practice with, and a strap. So if you don't have a strap, you can use the belt of a bathrobe, an actual belt, a scarf. Your towel, depending on how big it is, sometimes is perfect, or like a smaller towel. So we'll use those, and there will be options if you don't have them, but definitely grab a towel or a blanket. And we're going to start with that. So you can set your other props off to the side, and we'll grab our blanket. So I need to refold mine. You may need to fold yours. I'm going to fold it up twice from all the way open, like that. And then I'm going to take my blanket and roll it up along the long folded edge. Excuse me, Franklin. Get. All right. And then if you've got, I like to make a little crease and then tuck and fold that on itself. Thank you. And we're going to start with this across the yoga mat like this. And it's going to go kind of around the bottom tips of your shoulder blades, like where, kind of if you can see across the backs of my arms there. If you can imagine where someone's sports bra might be, that's kind of the spot we're looking for. And then you want your arms and head to be on the back side of the roll, and from your shoulder blades down to be on the front side of the roll. If your head feels like it's craning, one option would be to scoot a little bit to see if that doesn't resolve the position you were in. But you can also come up and unroll your blanket a little bit. And that will give you more opening, actually, if that's the case for you. We want our head and neck to not feel like they're straining here, but instead that we're getting some chest and shoulder opening. So once you get that situated, your knees can be bent with your feet on the floor, or you could extend your legs long. Whatever feels better in your low back. So I know you might be thinking, Jessie, you said we're going to do hamstrings, and then you had us come into our shoulders. And that's true. One of the reasons is because I think it feels nice to start our practice sometimes with more energy so that we have a little bit to move through. Chest openers can offer us that. But I also think that when we're talking about our hamstrings and the backs of our legs, what's going on in our pelvis matters to what our situation is. So by offering ourselves a little chest and shoulder opener before we work our way down the body, my intention is to let everything unwind at its own pace. By the time we get down into our feet, into our ankles, into our calves and knees, we've already been through the thighs and the pelvis, the low back and the torso, chest and shoulders, so that our focus on one part of the body doesn't disconnect us from ourselves further, but instead folds us in like we are incorporating ourselves into ourselves. Excuse me. A couple more deep breaths here. Might feel good to sigh out through your mouth, or to see if you can take in as much air as possible and feel the backside of your body press into the prop. Whenever you're satisfied with this, you're going to roll over to one side. Help yourself up just enough to move the blanket out of your way, and then come all the way back down onto the floor. You can do whatever you want with your legs and arms. Just take a moment to fold that in, to let your body process what we just offered. And now there's a new awareness. There's you with a shoulder stretch. A very yes and experience instead of like a yeah but. Because you could go either way all the time. We're going to bring our knees into our chest, but I want you to make it a yes and experience. So that might mean going slow. It might mean adjusting. Oof. If you're like me, there's lots of creaky crunchies in there today, so no need to rush through anything. Just take your time. It might feel good to rock your legs around or hug things in close. And go ahead and bring your feet back down onto the floor and find your strap or scarf. I'm going to keep referring to it as a strap, even if yours, whatever you've got, is a strap now. So and we're going to put this strap around the ball of your foot. So when I say the ball of my foot, I mean where my toes meet the sole, like where a high heel, like where Barbie stands, where you press on the gas pedal of your car. We're going to have the strap there and have the arms long on either side so that you can hold on somewhere that doesn't jack up your shoulders. So after we just did that chest and shoulder opener, it'd be a shame to like tighten it all back up. So instead of worrying about reaching for the foot, think about giving yourself a nice tension here with the strap. The other leg can be straight or bent, whatever feels more supportive in your low back. And you'll know it's the one that doesn't feel like a strain, or they both don't, and then you just get to pick still. We're going to bring the right knee 90 degrees so that your shin is parallel to the floor and your thigh bone is as vertical as you think it'll go. We're going to flex the foot, press into the strap, and then pull the strap back on the foot. See if you can squeeze your butt towards your heel. You should be shaking. That's like the amount of energy we want to be bringing into this leg. Breathe deep. And then like you were pushing something very heavy, like there was a lot of resistance, we're going to extend the knee slowly, but keep squeezing your heel towards your butt and your butt towards your heel, even as you open up through the back of your knee. Try to press out evenly through the inner and outer edge of your foot. That might give you extra stretch. And then once you get as long in the leg as you're getting today, put an extra bend for a breath and push back out. Use engagement to root your big thigh bone, your femur bone, deeper into your hip socket. Take another deep, full breath. And then rebend your knee and release. Take a couple of breaths here. Watch your leg continue to have an experience. You might feel like the right leg is a little lower into the floor or um, tingly or warm. There might be a spot you didn't notice that now you do. And then we'll switch sides. No rush. If your body is still coming back from the first side, um, it is your practice. So we'll start with the leg bent, arms somewhere on the strap so that your shoulder blades can be under your body. That's like kind of what I try to remind myself when I do this. And then before we lengthen the leg, find some engagement. Draw your heel towards your butt. Press your foot forward, root back with the strap, and then try to keep everything the same except for you're pushing forward and up to lengthen your leg. You're rooting down with the strap. If you're shaking, if you feel resistance, breathe with it. Don't push past it, but stay where you can kind of find like your balance of engagement and length. It shouldn't feel like nothing. A couple more breaths. And then release. Take your arms where you want to put them. Let your legs go somewhere. We'll do more hamstring stretching today. So if there is part of that Supta Padangusthasana series that you love we didn't get to, we will. For now, we're going to come up to hands and knees. So you can roll over to the side and help yourself up to all fours. Move my strap. Okay. I'm actually going to turn another light on, I think, too. It's a little dark in here. When you get to all fours, cat and cow is what we're looking for. So melting the spine, arching the back. When your body is like in this all fours position, your back is able to move through flexion and extension of the spine. Flexion is when we arch the back towards the ceiling like a Halloween cat. Tailbone tucks, chin tucks, everything round. And then extension, when we melt the belly and chest, hug the shoulder blades together, lengthen up through the top of the head and tailbone. And then we can go back and forth. Side to side is called lateral flexion. So we have more access to these parts of the body because of the position that we're in. As we move, our hamstrings come into play. So right now, the spine can move of its own accord. But our hamstrings, the muscles on the backs of our thighs, connect at our sit bones, the ischiotuberosities of your pelvis, or your ischium, that your pelvic tilt has so much to do with your low back and your hamstrings relationship or dysfunctional relationship if you're my hamstrings and low back. But when we come into down dog, which is what we're going to do next, just notice what happened in your legs, what happened in your low back. We're not looking to change it. We're just looking. I don't know about you, but what I notice starts to shift. And so I start to shift. Maybe bend one knee at a time or come forwards and backwards to plank a couple times. Maybe you want to come back to your hands and knees after a few breaths in down dog or lift and lower a leg. I'm going to take my sweatshirt off because that's usually what happens when I wear long sleeves and come into down dog. Just like a real yoga class. Okay. And then we will lift the right leg up. So, right leg in the air, stretch your foot back behind you, and then bend your knee. So, just like we were doing on our back, knee bent, foot towards the ceiling, and then squeeze your butt towards your heel. Push your foot up and melt your chest and shoulders. Let your left heel drop towards the floor. That should be a good stretch in your left ankle here. And then keep your shoulders where they are. Draw your right knee in towards your nose. So down dog, but with the knee and the nose reaching for each other. Keep everything together. Shift forward to plank, shoulders over the wrists. And then haul your right foot forward, back knee to the floor. Lift your chest and shoulders, Anjaneyasana. So in this low lunge, your hands can be on your hips. They can be overhead. They can be somewhere in front of your chest. Couple of breaths here. And then exhale, hands down around your front leg. Tuck your back toes under and lift your back knee. So you may want blocks under your hands if the ground feels hard to get to. It's going to give you better access to what comes next. I'm actually going to get mine. Feel free to play with the height of the blocks. They are adjustable. We're going to do that same action we did on our backs, but now we're going to do it moving from this low lunge into a pyramid pose. Pyramid pose is going to have long legs, so if you like to step the back foot forward, we're not going to do that for this round. We're going to keep the feet right where they are. Engage the underneath side of the front leg. Squeeze your heel towards your butt, and then push the floor away. Reach your right outer hip back. Try to square your left hip forward. Oh, get long in your spine, and then if it feels appropriate, and you'll know, you can fold a little bit deeper over the front leg. If you do it and you're like, wow, that's wildly inappropriate, you can just lift your chest back up. Couple of breaths. Notice if things have shifted. They definitely have. So shift with them. See if even as you're here in this pose, you can keep incorporating what's happening into the whole of your body. Maybe you use breath to do that, maybe visualization. Couple more rounds of inhales and exhales. And then rebend your front knee by squeezing your butt and heel together. Engage your hamstrings. And exhale, hands to the mat. Step back, downward facing dog. A few big breaths. Let things resolve. Just sort the body back into itself. Big breath in. Shift forward to plank. Shoulders come over your wrists. Hips are in line with your shoulders. Knees are up or down. It doesn't change how hard plank is. It just takes pressure out of your wrists. So take a few more breaths here. And then exhale. When you're ready, bend your elbows towards your feet. Lower your body down in one piece to the mat. When you get there, press the tops of your feet down into the floor. Roll your shoulders. Lift your chest. Low cobra. A few breaths here. Try to lengthen your tailbone away from the top of your head. And exhale, release. Toes tuck under. Body presses back. Downward facing dog. See if you can let your head get a little heavy here. And then lift your right leg, or your left leg, excuse me, up into the air. Flex your knee. Push your foot up towards the ceiling. Engage your hamstring, your butt towards your heel. Let your right heel drop back further. The higher you push your left foot, maybe the more your chest can get a little something. And then draw your knee into your nose. Keep your hips lifted. Come forward, shoulders over the wrists. Step your left foot forward. Ugh. Back knee down. Lift your torso, Anjaneyasana. Hands come where they feel supportive, where it feels like you can digest this shape. Or at least gnaw on it. You don't have to fully digest anything on the yoga mat. It's just a process. As soon as you're done digesting, you're eating again, as far as I'm concerned, on the yoga mat. Give yourself a few more breaths here. And then exhale, hands around your front leg. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee. Grab your blocks for under your fingers if the ground needs a little lift. And then we'll move into pyramid pose here by engaging the back of the leg. Press the floor away, but resist it, like your butt and your heel wanted to stay closer together. Left outer hip reaches back. Right hip squares forward. See if first you can get longer in your spine, so some of that extension, like cow pose. Drop your right heel straight back behind you. So don't spin it down, but see if you can get a little extra like foot and ankle stretch this way. And then if it feels like it's going to give you a little more, fold towards your left shin, your front leg. Let your head and shoulders relax. Couple more breaths. And then lift back up, rebend your front knee, move the blocks out of your way, and step back, downward facing dog. Take a few breaths there. Inhale forward to plank. Exhale, bend your elbows. Everything lowers together. Shoulder blades hug. Press into the tops of the feet, the tops of the knees, and your low ribs to roll your collarbones back. Hug your elbows in. Maybe you lift up a little higher into cobra. And then exhale. Release. Tuck your toes. Press all the way up and back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Downward facing dog. Deep breath. We're going to step the left foot forward an inch. And then pedal out your knees. We're going to step the right foot forward an inch. Same thing. And then keep going all the way up until your feet meet your hands in a forward fold. So go slow. Maybe you want to go quick. That's okay too. But see if you can integrate the journey instead of just rushing past it. Eventually you'll end up in a forward fold. I am a huge fan early on in practice of having blocks under the arms. I find that helps me lengthen and release my spine. Big breath in, lift and extend. Big breath out, fold, flex, release. Let your head get heavy. Inhale, one more time, halfway to lift. And exhale, fold. Hands to the mat. Step back, top of a plank. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, lower down slow. Big breath in, roll your shoulders back, cobra. Big breath out, release. Tuck your toes, lift your hips, downward facing dog. Step your right foot forward an inch. Step your left foot forward an inch. And take another long walk to the front of the mat. No rush to get anywhere. Just a forward fold. And you are already folding forward. So no need to rush. When you get there, again, your blocks might give you some space. We'll talk about why in a minute here. And then big breath in, extend out long. Big breath out, fold a little deeper. Bring your hands on your hips, hug your shoulder blades together and stand all the way up. Tadasana, mountain pose. Just an anatomical neutral here. So at the front of your mat, I'm just going to turn to face the camera. I know it's not technically the front of my mat. Notice what's happening in your body now that we've done some stuff. Can you fold it in? Inhale, arms lift up. Exhale, tip to the side. Doesn't matter which one. I went to my right, so my left arm is up. If that's the case, I'm going to push into the left foot, the outside leg, get longer through the side bodies, and then switch. Come up through the middle, and over in the other direction. And come on back up. And release. Roll your shoulders out a little bit. Maybe shake out your feet. And we're going to stand on our left foot. Grab your strap or your scarf, or you can just hold the underneath side of your leg. If you've got the strap, it's going to go around the ball of your foot. If you've got your no strap, you're going to hold the back of your thigh. Hug your shoulder blades together. So remember what this felt like on the floor, where we wanted the shoulders to be unbothered. And then here, your leg is in that same 90-degree position. We're going to keep the right thigh bone where it is. Press your foot forward. Keep hugging back with the strap and see if you can stand up tall. As you extend your leg forward, sit your right hip down. That might kick you out of the pose. That's good. Take a couple of breaths there. If you come out, just come back in or decide that you're done. Kind of as you and your body deciding. And then go ahead and release. Shake it out. And then we'll go the other direction. So without the wall behind us, the body can be more clever. When we have the hard ground under the entire backside of our body, we get more of a feedback loop. We get more awareness. And so that means limited movement because there's nowhere back to go. When you come into the second side, just be aware of that like your body will compensate for what's tight or uncomfortable, right? By shifting, by leaning, by rounding. We want to keep everything long and strong as we extend out forward and out. Out, forward, and out. You heard me. Sit the front hip down. Draw back as you push forward. And then release. Move the strap out of the way. If you're not already there, come to the front of the mat. Big breath in, arms lift up. And big breath out. Forward fold. Inhale to lift and extend. And exhale, forward fold. One more time. Press into your feet. Squeeze your butt towards your heels to stand all the way up. Push the ground away, lift your arms, and then reverse it. Squeeze your butt towards your heels to fold back down, hands to the mat. Step back through your vinyasa. So take a movement or a series of movements that connect you to yourself. Maybe find some stillness to connect to yourself and breathe. Pedal out your feet a little bit. Shift things around. And then lift your right leg up into the air. Stretch, stack, and open. Right hip over the left one. Maybe you want to bend the knee for a little wild dog with your knee towards the ceiling, heel towards your butt. Let your head hang. Take a deep breath in. Exhale. Draw your right knee in and up. Step your right foot forward. Hands are going to come inside your front foot. From here, walk your hands on a diagonal towards like the top left corner of your mat. Lift your hips, spin your back heel down. Keep bending through your front knee. Walk your hands in, and then lift up into warrior two. I just felt like coming into it like that. So maybe that worked for you. Maybe you didn't love it. I did. I feel like it got my hips kind of like out of their own way. I don't know. Here in warrior two, just take a moment to squeeze your front heel towards your sit bone. Like you were making a bicep curl with the underneath side of your thigh. And then drag your feet together to try to sit a little deeper. That's it. Flip your front palm. Reach back. Hi, George. Radiant warrior. And then press into the front foot. That same action we've been doing lots of places to extend the front knee. Reach forwards, backwards, which might feel like forwards. And then reach forwards. Lift up. Come into triangle. Ooh. Hi. Right hand is going to come to the block or the floor outside of your right leg. Left hand comes to your hip or up into the air. George. I think all three cats have come to class so far today. So that's good. Take another deep breath. And then exhale. Oh, don't puke. No. Not on the mat. Go. Okay, so triangle pose. Roll your shoulders back. Press into your front foot. Drag your feet together. Maybe lift up for another breath. And then exhale, left hand down. Keep your legs long. Spin up onto the toes of the back foot for a long leg pyramid pose. Ooh, reach your right outer hip back. Draw your left front of your hip forward. Fold. Take another deep, full breath. Let your back heel sink back a little further. And then rebend your front knee. Use resistance. Drag your heel towards your butt. And then step up. Standing split. Urdhva Prasarita Ekapadasana. Take another deep breath. And then exhale, left foot down to meet the right. From your forward fold, inhale, lift and extend. And exhale, fold and release. Press into both feet, stand all the way up. Arms lift. And exhale, fold all the way back down. Hands to the mat. Move through your vinyasa. Take what connects you to you. Great, up and down dog. Take a few breaths there. Lift your left foot up. Stack your hips. Left hip over the right one. Option to bend your knee. Let your heel fall your butt. Fall towards your butt. Lift, press, breathe. Use your breath to come forward. Left knee in, left foot up next to your left hand. And then back heel spins down. Arms crawl in a diagonal. And then walk yourself in and up and come into warrior two. Arms can open wide. Sometimes it feels, I think, integrative to have my hands on my torso someplace or on my shoulders. Sometimes it's nice to give yourself a hug. But either way, try to use pressing into your legs to make space in your pelvis. This is going to be a theme here. Sit a little bit deeper. And then draw in. Squeeze your heels together to extend your front leg. Oh, I forgot. Actually, rebend the knee. That's fine. You can do that action again. Reach back, radiant warrior. Sorry, I was like, what happened last time? Oh, it was George who is back. Don't you dare puke on this side too. Extend your front leg now. Get long from the floor to your fingers. And then reach forward and out. Triangle pose, Trikonasana. Left hand to the block, to the floor. Right hand to the hip or up into the air. One more big deep breath. Exhale, right hand down inside the front foot. Nice long stance. Spin up onto the ball of the back foot. Pyramid pose. Especially if this is a longer pyramid than you're used to, just remind yourself that you don't have to do it like this every time. We're just using this long stance to, to just integrate parts of our legs that maybe don't always get folded in. Keep reaching your front outer hip crease back as you bring the front of the back leg forward. Maybe fold a little deeper. And then rebend the front knee by engaging the hamstring, the underneath side of your big femur bone. And step up. Standing split. Urdhva Prasarita Eka Padasana. I can barely talk with what's going on in my leg, so just breathe. And then when you're ready, forward fold. Press into your feet. Stand all the way up. Arms lift as high in the air as you want. And exhale, arms alongside your body. Tadasana. Just take a few moments here. Check in with your feet, your ankles, your calves, shins. Check in with your knees, your thigh bones, your hips, your pelvis and low back, your belly, your ribs, your shoulders, elbows and hands, all your fingers, your neck and head, your little nose. George, hey, George, get off of that. All right, So we're going to do a little exploration of the backside of our bodies next. So if we think about our back muscles in relationship to our hamstring muscles, our hamstrings run from that ischial tuberosity, it's like your sitting bone, down your leg to the back of the knee. There's a middle hamstring, an inner hamstring, and an outer hamstring to reduce it to the most simple terms we kind of can for today's purposes. Hey, stop it. Sorry. George should be sorry. And depending on which hamstrings are tight, which has to do with a whole list of things, it'll affect which stretches do the most for you and how much of what you need in different places. So when we forward fold and we stretch the backs of the legs, imagine that there was a string that ran from your heels up through your pelvis and to the top of your head. So when you're standing, that's how much slack you have. If the pelvis is like the wheel on a pulley. When you hinge at your hips and forward fold, the string tightens, right? And the tension has to go someplace. So, I'm already grabbing my blocks. So, if your knees don't bend, your back takes the slack, right? Like the legs get too long, they hyperextend in the knees, and the upper back rounds because there's a finite amount of string. The string is stretchy, but we have to know how to stretch it. So if I bend my knees, immediately you can see that my back changes. So if you think about like cat and cow here, we want more cow to start. Knees bent. And then we want our hands to press down into something. So that's why I like the blocks. When the body can't press into the floor, your nervous system and your sense of equilibrium think you might be falling. um, so when we press into something, the body knows the ground is nearby, and on a subconscious level, the backside of your body is more able to relax. I like my blocks for that. I like to press in so that when I come up onto my fingertips, even if my knees are bent, I can get my whole back to extend. I can get all the muscles to hug together towards the spine. I can get a nice curve in my low back. I can lengthen out through the top of the head. And then when you forward fold, press into your feet. Bend your elbows out side to side, and whether or not your knees extend doesn't matter. But let things fold a little deeper. A couple of times just like that. Inhale to extend. Imagine that string. Try to get an even amount of tension from the backs of your heels up out through the top of your head. And then exhale, release. Soften the knees, soften the shoulders. Once you do that, maybe the hips lift a little to add some space somewhere. But if that doesn't add space, it wasn't worth doing, at least not today. And then hands on the hips. Come all the way back up to stand. Whew, and release. So that's like cat and cow on stilts or on steroids. It's a lot of work in the backside of the body. It might not feel like you quote unquote got a stretch in the most satisfying way. That's because we were using engagement to get length, and that'll be a limiting factor. So now we're going to give ourselves more limiting factors, which will hopefully stretch different muscles in our legs to help release and integrate into the whole body. It's my personal wish for myself today that I hope to share with you. So move the blocks up to the front part of your mat. I'm actually going to be kind of here. And then find your blanket or towel. And we're actually going to roll it up the same way we did at the beginning of class, but for a different purpose. So again, I really do like to fold about a third of the way up, quarter of the way up, and then tuck and roll that fold on itself, so that the center of the blanket is nice and dense. If you smooth the blanket out as you roll, it will feel nicer on your body. So you get to be the judge of that. Once you have your tube, we're going to come up to stand, and we're going to put it at our hip creases. So when we talk about the relationship between our low back and the backs of our legs, this should hopefully illustrate what that means for you and your body. You might have to move your belly, your bits around here, and your knees can be as wide apart or as bent as you want. You're going to grab the blanket as you fold between your chest and your thighs, and then you're going to come down as low as the body will go, which might feel like this sounds. It'll be in your way. You're going to be like, damn, I would be able to fold deeper if this blanket wasn't in my way. And that's correct. We are not trying to bypass the blanket. Instead, can we integrate the experience of having something in the way? Can you press into your feet? Maybe bring your blocks forward, not too far, but just a couple of inches so that you have to stay a little more stacked here. The butt's going to want to back up to change the angle of the pelvis. It's totally normal. That might even feel better than this other option. But for me today, I know I need to come a little more weight into the balls of my feet to get a little more of this release I'm looking for in the stuckness. Couple more breaths. And then inhale to lift halfway. Exhale, fold back down and over. Inhale to extend. This time, drop the blanket. That'll be kind of fun. And now fold into all that space you just opened up for yourself. Press into the heels of your feet. Keep dragging your tailbone down towards the ground. Notice if you're overly flaring through the backs of the hips or the backs of the knees, and try to engage your heels towards your butt, even here. All right, so while you're down there, adjust your blanket on the floor right where it is in front of you so that it's rolled evenly. And then bring your hands on your hips and come up to stand. Whew. That's some stuff, right? So when we're not able to fully release in the back of the pelvis, we're not able to fully release into the backs of the legs. There's a relationship there. So as you start to explore yours, hopefully some things start to shift. We're going to step on the blanket with our heels on the floor. So toes are up. Balls of the feet are on the blanket. You could grip and ungrip the blanket a couple of times to kind of get your feet where you want them. Bend your knees, hinge at your hips, and fold forward. Whew. So now this should be a little more backs of the legs focused. That's what we want here. That means you could probably keep your chest more lifted and less forward foldy, but both are good. So you can kind of choose your own adventure with this one. But see if, like in the beginning of class on our backs, if you can press evenly through the inner and outer edges of your feet to get more engaged length in the backs of your legs. Take a deep breath in, lift up halfway. You may want to walk your blocks in a little closer to the blanket. I know I do when I do this next one. We're going to step 1 foot back. Doesn't matter which one. And it doesn't matter how far. So you could step it real close. Ooh, actually, that might be me today. You could step it real long. Oh, that might also be me today. So you could do more than one, but take 3 to 5 breaths at least where you pick for yourself. You might want to swivel your hips or just stay put somewhere. And switch sides when you're ready. Back foot comes forward, front foot comes back. Oh. Second side might be very different than the first side, so let it be. If we tell the leg it has to change to be welcome, all that's going to do is disconnect from the body, from ourselves. But if we say, like, oh, okay, welcome, what do you need? How can I be with this sensation? I think things start to change very quickly when that's our mindset in the body. One of transformation and curiosity instead of like criticism and rigidity. Just gets to be how it is. And step your back foot forward. And then your choice. You can come off the blanket altogether or take a few breaths with both feet on. And when you forward fold, maybe you want to wrap your forearms around the backs of your legs. Ooh, maybe shake out the head. Very nice. Bend your knees. Grab your blanket. Come up slow. So sit your hips down and bring your elbows to the tops of your thighs for a moment. And then press into your feet. Come all the way up. We're going to do a calf smoosh, which is one of my very favorite ways to open the backs of the legs. You may need to re-roll your blanket a little bit. We're going to use that same size roll. We're going to put it behind the backs of the knees. So you're going to grab a hold of the blanket and start to squat. And then you're going to bring your hands to the floor or to your blocks so that you can bring your knees down and flatten your shins and tops of your feet. So that when you sit back on your heels, you are smushing your calves with this blanket. Hey, George. Are you feeling better? Excuse me, George. All right. You might be having a WTF moment right now. Stay with it. Stay with the sensation. Instead of rejecting the experience, see if you can welcome it in. If these very tight, sensitive places in your body can also be enjoyed, if for no other reason than like we're aware of them, we have them, we get to interact with them. What do you think, George? Yeah. A couple more breaths here. Something I like very much is to roll the blanket down my legs slowly to stretch different parts of the backs of the legs. So if you're interested in that, you're going to shift up a little to come off the roll, just enough that you can give the blanket a quarter turn towards your heels, and then sit your hips back again towards your feet, and you will be smushing a new part of your calves. You're also smushing your hamstrings. So the whole back of the leg is getting a little smushy, getting a little blood flow in there, getting a little squeeze. We all like a little squeeze sometimes, huh, George? You could stay there. You could also give your blanket another turn when you're ready. Ooh. I find there's a real spicy spot right at the edge of where your gastroc, like the curvy part of your calf, meets your soleus, the flat part of your calf, right on the edge of those muscles there. Okay. ready, there might be another roll in there. You might be all set and coming out of this. When you do come out of the pose, take a moment on your hands and knees to kind of kick the legs out a little bit or stretch your heels back one at a time. And we'll meet up in downward facing dog. So in down dog, the legs might want certain actions, or they might just want to hang out and unwind a little more. You decide based on what you feel, what you're noticing in your own practice, your own body today. And then come forward to plank. Bend your elbows lower to the mat. I'm going to take a couple of shoulder stretches here on the floor, a couple of quad stretches. So we'll stretch the front of the body a little bit. I know we did a lot of stretching for the back of the body today. Start by bringing your right forearm parallel to the front of your mat so that you can lift your chest and shoulders. Bend your left knee and reach back for the inner edge of your ankle or foot with your left hand. If you can, have your thumb facing up here. Press your foot into your hand. Press your front forearm down. See if you can rotate your right shoulder back, left shoulder forward. Press into the front of your pelvis. Take a deep breath. And then release. Second side. Bend your right knee. Left forearm props you up. And right hand to right foot or ankle. Press down through the front side of the body, whatever's touching the floor. Try to square your chest and shoulders forward. George, I love you too, bud. Get out of here. George, move it. And then release the second side. All right. So we're going to take a little, George, please. Ow. A little Shavasana locust pose here. So we're going to interlace our hands behind our backs. Roll your shoulders one at a time up and onto your rib cage. Press your palms together. Press into the tops of the feet. And then lift up through the chest. Reach back through your knuckles. Out through the top of your head. Deep, full breath. And release. Bring your arms out wide, side to side like a T. Palms face down. Turn your head towards your left hand. And you can watch me do this if you've never gotten into this stretch before. It can be a little confusing with lefts and rights. So I'm going to look at my left hand, and I'm going to bend the left elbow and come up onto the left fingertips. My right arm's going to stay reaching out to the right, and I'm going to keep pressing into my right hand to hug my shoulder blades together. From here, I'm going to bring my inner edges of the legs together, and I'm going to roll onto my right outer hip. Stack the legs, stack the hips. Maybe I walk the left shoulder in a little bit. And breathe. Going this far might be too far. You can keep your shoulder or your hips on the floor. You could also add a little. You can lift the top leg and step the foot back behind you with your knee up towards the ceiling. Oh. And one more deep breath. And then slow, slow, slow. Unwind back through center. And switch sides. So take a lot of time before you go to the second side. And by a lot of time, I mean let it dissolve. See if you can let things settle in the body before you move into the other half of the stretch. So when you do, you're coming at it from a place of awareness, from an in like a place that, sorry, my like shoulder is doing crazy stuff. It's hard to talk. Look, you want to have a nice time, all right? We're not trying to like get rid of ourselves. At least I'm not when I practice yoga, and that's like not the stuff I'm interested in teaching. I am interested in sharing connection to ourselves, to our bodies, to the great beyond. To whatever you connect to that's worth your time and awareness. And since we all got here on our own schedule, take your time, nice and slow, coming out of the second side. Pause on your belly for a breath or two. It might be nice to stack your palms and let your forehead rest on your hands or something different. And come on, back up. One last downward facing dog. We might do, actually, what am I saying? We're going to do more than one down dog, but we're rounding the bend on this down dog. So if you're like done with down dog, you could do a puppy pose or a child's pose. You might not be done with down dog. You might just want a child's pose or a puppy pose. And then bring your knees to the floor. We're going to bring our right foot forward for a runner's stretch. So if you want to grab your blanket to cushion your back knee, we're going to be here for a little bit. And you may or may not want your blocks. I always start with blocks when I stretch my hamstrings. And I will talk about why. Go figure. So I am a flexible person. When I started doing yoga, that part of the practice came really naturally to me. That doesn't mean I'm always getting a stretch. So range of motion does not equal stretch, which I think is important to remind ourselves like over and over and over again, because our brains are like, look, it leg is long, I must be stretching it. And then your leg's like, I don't feel anything, right? And then your low back's like, WTF, like we wanted to get a stretch today. So when we talk about that pulley, when we have a longer or shorter lever, it affects which muscles we're feeling it in. So come up to your knees with your shoulders over your hips, over your knees, and bring your right foot forward, toes towards the ceiling, hips down towards the floor. Actually, yes, keep your right leg forward. I am going to mirror you so you can see what I'm talking about. You may or may not want to tuck your back toes under. Either way is fine, flat foot or flexed foot, whatever's going to give you more activation. So right here with your leg forward and your spine long, this is like, if you think about that string going up the back of your leg and through the top of your spine, you are getting the most extension in both places. As you fold at your pelvis, as you decrease the angle between your thigh and your torso, you're going to change the what's going on in your muscles and in your legs. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bend in the left knee, hands on the hips, shift your butt back a little, and then keep your shoulders together, but like reach your hands towards, they'll probably find nothing, and then bring your blocks there. If you don't have blocks, just bring your hands to the floor and see if you can get that same shoulder blades hugging. When we lengthen the lever here, when we make our arms longer, we take tension out of the backs of the legs and the low back. We're able to get a deeper, better stretch. That doesn't mean we don't fold forward, right? So first, start by sitting your outer hip down towards the floor. Yeah, it might want to like lift up. You can even take your thumb and hook it in your hip crease and then reach out and down with it. Yeah. From here, keep your spine long, bend your elbows, and fold until you can't fold anymore while keeping your spine long. About here is where I start to feel my middle back pop up. George, leave the ficus alone. That thing, it does not need you chewing it. Go. Okay. George, get away. Go. Okay. Get your hip moving down towards the floor. Fold as deep as you're going to fold. And then try to re-engage and fold again. So at this point, you might lower your blocks. You might be like, oh, my arms got long. My spine got long. Right now, we're stretching the middle hamstring and just kind of overall the backs of the legs. We're going to target the inner and outer hamstrings a little bit here. So we'll start by bringing both hands inside the front foot. If you've got your blocks, bring them with you. And then you're going to walk your blocks out to the side a little bit. Stick your butt back and turn your toes in towards your blocks. Drag your front heel towards your back knee, widen your inner thighs. Oh, that should be some inner upper something. And then fold as deep as you'd like. Nice job. Nice job, George. Walk yourself back up. Bring one arm to either side of your leg, square things up. So find neutral first. And then this is going to be for your outer hip and IT band. It's going to be spicy. So go slow. You might want more height. But both hands and blocks are going to come to the outside of your front leg. Keep sitting your hip towards the floor. Oh, you don't need to fold forward unless you are looking for sensation. You might be looking for sensation. Sensation found me, so I'm just going to hang out here and breathe. What do you think, George? All right. Nice and easy. Come back through the middle. Keep your hands on the blocks or the floor. Keep your right knee your left knee where it is, and reach your right leg back. And just shake it out, kind of a three-legged hands and knees here. And then we'll switch sides. So, your other foot's going to come forward. I believe that's your left foot. Start with your chest and torso vertical. So again, just remind yourself what engaging your leg feels like, what hugging your shoulder blades together feels like. Sit your front hip down, hinge at the hips. And then bring your hands to your blocks. Lengthen your spine as you fold. When you get to the edge of where you can keep your spine extended, you may or may not want to let your head come down. For me today on this side, that made my back round immediately. So one option would be finding a different height with the blocks and giving myself a little more support before I fold. And then the other option is just not letting my head come down like that. I might be getting more stretch in the backs of the legs and across my low back when I'm a little more lifted. So again, we're not trying to just like rush past the sensation. We're trying to welcome it in. We're trying to integrate what we're feeling. When you're ready, both hands come inside the front foot. Walk them out to the side. Put a little bend in your front knee so that you can turn your toes towards your hands. Widen your butt back behind you. And then drag your back knee towards the front foot as you fold a little. Inner thigh, inner hamstring. And then walk yourself up. Come back through the middle again first. Square things up. Sit your outer hip down. And then nice and slow. Both hands outside of the front shin. Notice if your knee wants to hyperextend. Don't let it. Keep a little bend in your leg to help protect your joint and direct a stretch to the middle of the muscle, the places that really need the most blood flow, the most awareness. Keep sitting your front hip down. And when you're ready, one arm to either side of the left leg. Lift it up and back, shake it out. Now we'll come into our last down dog for practice. If you want to flow, help yourself. If you want anything here, lifting the leg. We're going to come onto our backs. So however you get there, we'll swing the legs around and come onto the ground. I'm going to bring a blanket behind my head because I love that. Supporting the head and neck on the floor is always a good idea when we're practicing, I think. And then when you get onto the floor, windshield wiper your knees side to side. Let your feet stay on the ground, knees bent. And then one more time, grab your strap. Strap's going to come around the ball of your right foot. Left knee could be bent or leg could be straight. We'll start with that same engaged right angle in the leg we started with today. It might be easier to engage and it might shake more. That's okay. The shaking is actually your muscle trying to figure out if it should extend or contract. The answer is both, so it's doing it. And then lengthen up. Try to resist the joint action with muscle support. And then once you get all the way long in your leg, now bring your foot closer to your face. So now we're going deeper. Now we're not just integrating what's there, but we're offering maybe a direction, an idea, a sensation. Bring both ends of the strap into your right hand and open your right leg to the right. Just like we did on that runner stretch with our hands inside the front leg, keep dragging your heel towards your butt. Try to let your left side of your body stay heavy on the floor. They're going to want to lift. Keep pressing down. And then hug middle to bring your foot back up. Pause through center. Root your leg bone into the hip socket again. Maybe bring your foot even closer towards your face. And then both ends of the strap into your left hand. We're going to take two things. The first one is for the outer leg. So it's going to be more like the runner stretch version that we did. You're going to keep your right hip and side body on the floor. So torso doesn't move. Foot moves across the midline so that your foot's kind of over your left shoulder. Your hip's going to want to lift up to bypass the sensation. Stay here. Stay with that weird maybe it's an even icky sensation. But keep bringing your toes towards your face. Try to reach your right outer hip away from you. And then we're going to come all the way into the more satisfying version here. So, right arm stays open. Right leg goes all the way over so that you can roll onto your left outer hip. And then you could keep your hand on the strap. I like that to press the foot into it. You could also let your foot come down to the floor or bend your knee. Breathe into the middle of your body. And then come all the way back through center. Release. Let your right leg come down to meet the left. Oh, and take a few breaths here. Notice what it feels like. What's still happening inside. And then we'll go the other way. So, the left leg. It's hard to talk at the end of class when you've practiced. It's one of the reasons I didn't practice when I taught in the before times. So, we'll start with that engagement. The right angle in the knee, foot on the strap presses forward, strap pulls back. Ooh, use that engagement to start to lengthen. Keep drawing your heel towards your butt. Press up, 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 and out, even as you root down, 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 and in. And when you get extended, when you're like, yes, this is my extension, walk your hands up the strap a little and bring your foot closer to your face. If that immediately disengages everything, just back up a little and re-engage. See if you can bring that awareness with you. Oh. Keep pressing through the inner and outer edges of your foot. Couple more breaths. And we'll open to the side. Both hands take the straps. Wait, no. The hand takes both ends of the strap. And then right side of the body stays put. Engage into the strap and hug the strap back on the foot to open your leg to the left. Inner thigh, your adductor muscles probably have something to say about this. Just let them say it. Let them feel heard. The first step of radical acceptance is accepting that things are. We don't have to like it. But when we radically accept our body, we don't have to give it a value. We don't have to make it good or bad or fixed or broken. It just gets to be our body. It just gets to be our experience. So as we continue to have experiences in the body, we fold them in. We process and digest. We give ourselves time. Hug back towards center, foot towards the ceiling. Pause here. Maybe bring the foot a little closer to your face. And then both ends of the strap into the right hand. Left arm opens to the side. Oh, I was going to bypass the sensation. We'll start with the IT band stretch. So hips stay on the floor, shoulders stay on the floor, leg moves across the midline, or ankle moves across the midline. Your left hip stays as put as it can. Keep reaching your toes up towards your shoulder. Hi, George. Couple more breaths. And then when it's right for you or your cat, you're going to open up into the twist. He's right there. Hi. A couple more deep breaths. And then come all the way back through center. Release the strap, release your leg. Take anything that feels good. We're headed towards Shavasana, our final relaxation pose for class. So if you want to hug your knees up into your chest, help yourself. You could take a happy baby pose or a supported bridge pose. You might want to get a sweater or some socks to cozy up with. And as always, I invite you to rest in a position that's comfortable for you. A lot of times for me, that means bringing something under the backs of my knees, like a small pillow or another blanket. If you have a bolster, that can be a nice option. Make sure your head is supported and your neck is comfortable. That your arms can be somewhere they can rest easy. Couple of breaths in and out. And for a few minutes, we'll just rest and breathe. Excuse me. And start to deepen your breath. Draw your knees up towards your chest and give yourself a little squeeze. Roll over to one side. And use your hands to help yourself up. And find an easy seated position. He hates being held like this, but he's also not leaving. There he goes. When you get rid of your cat or your cat settles down, you can rest your hands in your lap, on your legs, somewhere over your chest. And a few breaths to remind yourself that connection is the point of our practice. And so we learn about anatomy, we focus on certain parts of ourselves to create more connection, to fold in the cheese, whatever that means. And so the point today was to find a little more you. So if that happened, good job. It was enough. Thank you all so much for sharing your practice. Hail yourselves and have an awesome rest of your day. Say bye, George.